Have you ever been in one of those conversations, especially about politics or something big, where you just feel like you're talking to a wall? It's so frustrating, right? It's like you're speaking completely different languages. Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain and look at the hidden architecture behind why those talks break down, and maybe, just maybe, how we can start to build them back up.
All right, let's just dive right into the question that I think is on everyone's mind. We have more information, more ways to connect than ever before in human history. So why does it feel like real, meaningful dialogue is practically impossible sometimes? Why do our best efforts to just understand each other so often end in total gridlock?
And here's the answer. This is really the core idea for this entire explainer. The problem isn't the facts we're arguing over. It's not about who's right or who's wrong. The real issue is buried deep in our own psychology, in the fundamental wiring of our brains and the very tools we use to try and connect with other people.
So, to figure out where it all goes wrong, first we have to appreciate the incredible machinery we all have for getting it right. Let's start with this amazing empathy engine that's built into every single one of us. This is the absolute foundation of any real dialogue.
Okay, so the first piece of this internal software is something called theory of mind. Just think of it as your brain's basic ability to realize that what's going on in someone else's head is different from what's going on in yours. It's that little voice that lets you guess, I wonder what they're thinking, or what do they want right now? Now, here's where it gets really cool. We don't just think about what other people are feeling. Our brains are actually wired to feel it with them. That's affective empathy. It's that gut punch you feel when you see someone get hurt, or that little spark of joy you feel when a friend gets good news. It's intuitive. So you see, you're walking around with this incredibly powerful cognitive toolkit. You've got theory of mind to guess at thoughts. You've got affective empathy to share feelings. You even have these amazing things called mirror neurons, brain cells that fire just from watching someone else do something, almost like you're doing it yourself. All this stuff works together to let you build a surprisingly accurate simulation of what it's like to be someone else.
All right, now let's talk about the main tool we use to link our minds together: language. I mean, with an empathy engine that powerful, you'd think our words would always build bridges, right? But as we're about to see, that very same tool can, and often does, build a giant wall instead.
And here's the catch. Language isn't this neutral, objective thing. It's not like a camera that just captures reality as it is. No, it's more like a lens that we can use to focus attention on one thing, blur out another, and frame the entire picture. The words we pick don't just describe the world, they actively build the world we see.
This is a perfect example of what psychologists call the framing effect. Just look at these two phrases. One translates to illegal immigration. That word, illegal, immediately frames the person as a criminal. It's all about law breaking. But the other phrase translates to asylum seeker. Now, the very same person is framed as a victim, someone searching for safety. See that? Same person, same reality, but two completely different stories, just by swapping out a couple of words. And this isn't just some clever trick for winning a debate. It points to a really deep principle about how our minds work, sometimes called the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. It basically suggests that the language we speak can actually set the boundaries for how we think. Our words can literally create the walls of our mental world. So, okay, we've got this empathy engine. We've got this incredibly powerful tool called language. So what's the problem? Well, even with the best gear, we still run headfirst into a massive, evolutionarily hardwired obstacle: our own tribal brains. This, right here, is the great barrier to dialogue. Think about this. Before your logical brain even gets a chance to ask, is this information true or false, a much older, more primitive part of your brain has already asked a different question. Is the person telling me this a friend, or are they a foe? Are they one of us, or are they one of them? This is the very core of what's known as in-group bias. And this bias is no joke. It's incredibly powerful. We automatically give the benefit of the doubt to people in our in-group. We trust what they say. But information from an out-group, that gets hit with a wall of skepticism and suspicion right away. And the wildest part? Experiments show this bias kicks in instantly, even if the groups are made up based on something as random as a coin flip. It's like a pre-installed defense system that shuts down conversation before it can even get going. So this all sounds pretty bleak, doesn't it? I mean, if we're literally fighting our own brain's wiring, how can we possibly build a sturdy bridge for dialogue? Well, the good news is, understanding the architecture of the problem also gives us the blueprint for the solution.
One of the most effective strategies out there is called the common in-group identity model. Now, the goal here isn't to pretend our differences don't exist. The key is to find a bigger, more inclusive identity that you both share. So instead of being a Democrat versus a Republican, you reframe it as we're two citizens who want our country to be better. Instead of pro this and anti that, it's we're two parents trying to figure out what's best for our kids. You zoom out.
And when you do that, you get this massive shift in perspective. As you can see right here, the conversation stops being a battle, it stops being you versus me, and it becomes a collaboration. It becomes us versus the problem. Suddenly, you're not opponents anymore. You're partners trying to solve a puzzle together. So when you put this all together, you can see that building real, successful dialogue isn't about one single trick. You have to work on every single level of the architecture. On the individual level, it's about consciously firing up our empathy. Interpersonally, we have to be so mindful of the language we use. At the group level, we've got to find that common ground to get past our tribal instincts. And at the bigger societal level, it's about creating shared rules and goals that can bring us all together. You see, understanding this hidden architecture of dialogue gives every one of us a choice. We can just stay on autopilot, trapped by our biases and the divisive language we hear all the time, or we can choose to become conscious architects of connection. The tools are already there, inside our own heads. So the only real question left is this: what bridge will you choose to build today?